All right, so wildfires in California, something I think we're all pretty familiar with at this point.
Yeah.
And we're going to be taking a look back at 2024,
Okay.
a year that I think really reminded us of the challenges that these fires present, but also threw us a few curveballs.
Yeah, definitely.
So you've given us quite a collection of sources for this deep dive.
I tried to.
We've got the Wikipedia summary on the 2024 fires. We've got some detailed reports from Seal Fire, some pretty amazing satellite imagery from NASA and NOAA, and even an article that looks at the bigger picture of fires
Right.
globally.
That global perspective is something that's becoming increasingly more important, I think. Wildfires aren't just a California problem anymore. You know, it's a
Right.
global phenomenon. And that 2024 fires in the Northern Hemisphere
Yeah.
article really drives that point home.
Okay, well, we'll for sure get to that global perspective.
Okay.
I think first we should probably set the stage here in California.
Sure.
2024 saw over 8,000 wildfires burning across the state.
Yeah. And those fires burned through over 1 million acres,
Wow.
according to Cal Fire.
That's a lot of land.
It is an area larger than many national parks, completely transformed by fire.
Yeah, it's hard to even picture.
It's a staggering number.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting is that while that number might sound alarming,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually down from the acreage that we saw burn in 2021.
Huh. So more fires, but less acreage burned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that raises the question, you know,
Yeah. What's
driving that change?
Is it that our firefighting strategies are getting better?
Potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, Cal Fire has been implementing more controlled burns
Okay.
to manage vegetation, and there have been advancements in firefighting technology that might be contributing to faster containment.
Okay.
But it's not just about firefighting. I think the 2024 season had a very distinct pattern that we can see reflected in these sources.
Okay.
A busy spring fueled by all those dry grasses we see every year,
Yeah.
and then a relatively quiet summer. And then, boom, things ramp up again in September, especially in Southern California.
Yeah.
Do you remember that intense heat wave that hit the West?
Oh, yeah, that was brutal.
Well, that heat wave played a major role in that resurgence of fire activity.
Oh, really?
It created those tinderbox conditions, and we saw several large fires erupt, like the line fire, the bridge fire, the airport fire.
And I bet those satellite images from NASA and NOAA really captured just how intense those September fires were.
Absolutely. They paint a very vivid picture.
Yeah.
Remember those images of the mountain fire near Camarillo?
Oh, yeah.
Those smoke plumes stretching for miles, visible even from space?
Yeah, it burned through something like 20,000 acres, right?
Almost 20,000 acres and over 200 structures were destroyed.
Yeah, those images are hard to forget.
It's a stark reminder that these aren't just numbers on a page.
Yeah,
You know, they represent real losses, real impacts on people's lives.
absolutely.
But amidst all that destruction, there's also a fascinating story unfolding here. A story about the changing nature of wildfires and our evolving relationship with them.
Okay, so we've talked about the scale of these fires.
Right.
But what about what sparked them in the first place?
Yeah.
It's not always just lightning strikes, is it?
You're absolutely right. Sometimes it's us humans who are responsible.
Oh, wow.
Arson was the confirmed cause of several major fires in 2024,
Really?
including the Park Fire.
The Park Fire, that was the one that burned over 400,000 acres, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, the fourth largest fire in California's history. And
Yeah.
it was started deliberately.
It's a sobering thought,
Yeah.
and it highlights a point that I think is often overlooked in discussions about wildfires.
Okay.
The role of human actions,
Mm-hmm.
both intentional and unintentional.
Yeah.
Think about it. Equipment, used discarded cigarettes, even fireworks,
Right.
all potential triggers for these devastating fires.
Looking at those images of the Park Fire, I mean, it really makes you wonder if there are ways we could be more proactive, more responsible when it comes to preventing these human-caused fires.
Yeah,
Maybe stricter regulations or better public awareness campaigns?
I agree. There's definitely room for improvement in that area.
Yeah.
We need to find ways to mitigate the risks associated with human activity.
Right.
But it's not just about prevention. It's also about being prepared when fires do occur.
Okay.
And one of the key aspects of preparedness is understanding the true cost of these fires,
Okay.
not just in terms of acres burned,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of lives lost, homes destroyed, the human cost.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I think sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the statistics.
Right.
And we forget that every number represents a person, a family, a community impacted by these fires.
Exactly. And the CL fire reports paint a stark picture.
Yeah.
Over 1,700 structures destroyed in 2024, displacing families and communities.
Wow.
Think about the ripple effect of those losses.
Right.
And while 2024 saw the lowest number of fire-related deaths since 2013,
Oh, wow.
one life was still tragically lost in the Mina fire.
It's heartbreaking to think about.
It is.
You know, it reminds us that while we've made some progress in firefighting and prevention, there's still so much more work to be done.
Absolutely. And that's where looking at the global perspective becomes so crucial. You know,
Yeah.
challenges we face here in California, they're not unique.
Right.
Other regions are grappling with similar issues, and they're coming up with innovative solutions that we can learn from.
Okay.
The 2024 fires in the Northern Hemisphere article gives us a glimpse into what's happening in other parts of the world.
So you mentioned earlier that this article really highlights the fact that wildfires are a global issue.
It does.
What are some of the key insights from that article that stand out to you?
Well, one of the things that struck me is the sheer scale of the problem.
Okay.
We're seeing these major fires in Canada, Siberia, even Portugal.
Wow.
And while the causes and impacts might vary from region to region, there's this common thread.
Yeah.
Climate change is playing a significant role.
Right. Yeah, we can't ignore that bigger picture. We can't?
Rising temperatures, drier conditions, increased fuel loads.
Exactly.
It's creating the perfect storm for wildfires worldwide.
It is.
So how does California's approach to wildfire management compare to what's happening in other parts of the world?
That's a great question.
Are there lessons that we can learn from each other?
That's a question we'll dive into more in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah, that's good.
Stay tuned. You know, we often focus on the immediate damage of these fires. You know, the flames, the smoke, the destruction,
Right.
the things that we see on the news. But I think it's important to consider those long-term consequences as well.
Okay.
The things that we might not see right away.
Like what are some of those hidden impacts?
We'll take air quality, for example.
Okay.
Those satellite images from NOAA, the
Yeah.
one showing those massive smoke plumes spreading across the state.
Right.
They tell a story about the impact these fires have on our health.
Yeah, you're right. I remember seeing those images.
Yeah. It's not just about being near the flames. It's the air we breathe, even miles away from the fire lines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wildfire smoke carries all sorts of harmful pollutants. You know,
Oh, wow.
particulate matter, carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds.
Jeez.
It's a recipe for respiratory problems, you know.
Yeah.
Irritated lungs, asthma flare-ups, even an increased risk of heart disease.
So it's almost like a hidden danger,
Right.
something that lingers long after the fire is out.
That's exactly it. And studies have shown that wildfire smoke can actually contribute to health problems months or even years
Wow.
after the fire itself.
That's scary.
It is, and it's not just humans who are affected either.
Right.
Think about the ecological impacts. You know, entire ecosystems can be destroyed, wildlife populations decimated.
It's hard to imagine anything surviving in those conditions.
It's a long and difficult process, but nature is remarkably resilient.
Yeah.
Over time, plants and animals will gradually return to the burned area. But it's important to remember that the post-fire landscape is often very different from what existed before.
Right.
Some species might struggle to reestablish themselves, while others, the ones adapted to fire, might actually thrive in those altered conditions.
So it's like nature hitting the reset button.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Did you know that wildfires can actually have some positive ecological effects?
Oh, really? So fire can actually be beneficial in some cases.
Absolutely. For certain plant species, fire is actually essential for their life cycle.
Wow.
Some seeds actually need the heat of a fire to germinate, and some forests rely on these periodic fires to clear out underbrush and promote new growth.
Okay, so it's all about finding that balance, that
Yeah.
sweet spot between, suppression efforts to protect lives and property, and recognizing that fire plays a natural role in these ecosystems.
It's like we're dancing with fire,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to coexist.
And that dance is getting even more complicated with climate change.
Absolutely.
We've got drier conditions, higher temperatures.
It's creating these mega fires that can overwhelm even our most sophisticated firefighting efforts.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
What can we do to adapt to this new reality?
Well, giving up is not an option. You know,
Right.
we need to be proactive,
Okay.
embrace a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
That means investing in research to understand fire behavior better, improving our early detection systems, and perhaps most importantly, adopting more effective land management practices.
Okay, let's break that down a bit. What kind of research are we talking about here? What are scientists focusing on?
Well, for example, scientists are looking into the role of climate change in wildfire frequency and intensity.
Okay.
They're studying the effectiveness of different firefighting techniques,
Mm-hmm.
and they're exploring new technologies like AI-powered drones that can monitor for fires and provide real-time data to firefighters.
AI-powered drones? That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's becoming a reality. These drones can access those difficult terrains,
Right.
those hard-to-reach areas,
Yeah.
and relay crucial information to firefighters on the ground, helping them make better decisions in real time.
Wow. So it's like having an extra set of eyes in the
That's
sky, a
exactly.
bird's eye view of the entire fire.
And let's not forget about the use of satellite data.
Right.
Satellites can detect heat signatures, track smoke plumes, and even monitor the condition of vegetation.
It's amazing how much information we can gather from up there.
It is, and all of this data can help us predict how a fire might behave and helps guide those suppression efforts.
You know those NOAA satellite images we were talking about earlier? They're not just pretty pictures.
They're not.
They're providing crucial data.
Exactly. They help us understand the dynamics of these fires and guide the response effort. And as satellite technology continues to evolve, our ability to track, monitor, and predict fires is only going to get better.
So we've got researchers digging into the science. We've got high-tech tools like drones and satellites aiding in the fight. But where does the human element fit into all of this?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah,
Technology is a powerful tool,
right.
but it's only as effective as the people using it.
Yeah.
In the end, it comes down to the courage and skill of those firefighters,
Right.
the dedication of those researchers, and the resilience of those communities.
Yeah.
That's what will determine our success in navigating this new era of fire.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology and forget the human side of things.
It is. And speaking of the human side of things, let's circle back to the 2024 season for a moment.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about arson being a significant factor in some of those major fires?
Yeah.
I think that raises some important questions about prevention and responsibility.
Yeah. It's a tough issue. How do we prevent these tragedies from happening again?
Right? It's not just about putting out fires. It's about understanding why they start in the first place.
Thanks.
And it's a complex problem with no easy solutions.
Right.
But addressing the root causes of arson, whether it's mental health issues, social inequalities, or something else entirely, that's crucial.
Yeah.
We also need to strengthen our law enforcement efforts to identify and prosecute those who deliberately start these fires.
I wonder if technology could play a role here as well.
Potentially.
Could surveillance cameras or AI-powered systems help deter arson or aid in investigations?
That's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
Technology can be a powerful tool for safety and security, but it's important to find that right balance.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we're utilizing technology responsibly, respecting individual privacy while also protecting public safety.
It's a tricky balance for sure.
It is, and it's a reminder that there's no single solution to this complex issue.
Right.
And it leads us to another important point. I think
Right.
the tendency to oversimplify the causes of wildfires. After a major fire, there's often this rush to blame. The government, the power company, climate change.
Yeah.
But the reality is much more nuanced, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's rarely a simple case of cause and effect.
Right.
It's this web of factors that contribute to these fires.
Exactly. And that complexity makes finding solutions all the more challenging.
Yeah.
But it also presents an opportunity.
Okay.
An opportunity to learn from each fire, to analyze the data, share best practices, and ultimately build a more fire-resilient future.
Speaking of data, I was looking at the Wildfire website earlier.
Okay.
It's amazing how much information they provide on each individual fire.
It is.
The cause, the acreage burned, the number of structures destroyed.
Yeah.
It's like a treasure trove of insights, and
Yeah.
it's all publicly available.
It is. And it's not just valuable for researchers or policymakers.
Right.
It's incredibly useful for the public as well.
Yeah.
Understanding the patterns and trends of wildfire activity can help people make more informed decisions, both individually and as communities.
So for our listeners who are eager to learn more, I definitely recommend checking out the Wildfire website.
Absolutely.
We'll be sure to include a link in the show notes.
And while you're at it, take another look at those NASA and NOAA satellite images.
Yeah.
They really give you a powerful visual sense of the scale and intensity of these fires.
Those images are striking.
They have a way of conveying the raw power of these fires in a way that words just can't capture.
It's true.
They're a stark reminder of the destructive force of nature and the urgent need for action.
Yeah.
But they also highlight the beauty and resilience of our planet.
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
Its ability to recover and regenerate even in the face of such devastation.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
No, it's not.
There's hope, there's resilience, and there's this potential for us to find a way to coexist with fire.
There is.
But it's going to take a collective effort.
Absolutely. And it starts with each of us taking responsibility, doing what we can to mitigate the risks.
Even small steps like clearing defensible space around our homes, being careful with fire sources, staying informed about fire conditions.
Exactly. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to a safer and more sustainable future for California.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to that global perspective that we touched on earlier.
Right.
There are communities around the world who are already finding innovative ways to adapt to this new era of fire.
Okay.
And in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to explore some of those inspiring examples.
So let's talk about some of those inspiring examples you mentioned.
Okay.
I was really intrigued by those communities in Europe.
Right.
The 2024 fires in the Northern Hemisphere article talks about them.
Yeah.
The ones using goats and sheep to manage vegetation.
It is a unique approach.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty unique approach.
It's called prescribed grazing.
Okay.
And it's gaining traction as a fire prevention strategy.
So how's it work?
So you have these herds of goats or sheep,
Mm-hmm.
and they're munching away on dry brush and grasses, which reduces fuel loads and naturally creates fire breaks.
So it's like a more eco-friendly way to manage that overgrowth
Right.
instead of controlled burns or using heavy machinery.
Exactly. And there are additional benefits as well.
Oh, like what?
Well, grazing animals can help improve soil health,
Okay.
reduce erosion, and promote biodiversity.
So it's a pretty low-tech solution
It is.
that can be implemented in a lot of different settings.
Right. It's a versatile tool in our fight against wildfires.
So are there any communities in California experimenting with this prescribed grazing?
There are actually a few pilot projects underway,
Oh, okay.
especially in areas with high fire risk and sensitive ecosystems.
Okay.
Researchers are studying how effective prescribed grazing is at reducing those fuel loads and what impact it has on those native plant and animal communities.
Okay.
It's a promising approach, but more research is needed to fully understand its long-term effects.
It's exciting to see these innovative solutions being tested.
It is.
And it reminds me of something we talked about earlier, the importance of involving communities in wildfire mitigation.
Absolutely.
It can't just be top down.
Right. You're spot on. We need those communities to be actively engaged in both fire prevention and preparedness.
Yeah.
That means educating residents about the fire risk, encouraging them to take steps to protect their homes, and fostering that sense of collective responsibility,
Right. So it's not just about the firefighters and government agencies. It's about individuals, homeowners, and communities all working together
Exactly. It takes a village.
to create a more fire-resilient environment.
It's a shared responsibility.
Yeah.
And when communities take ownership of that fire safety, it can make a huge difference.
The 2024 fires in the Northern Hemisphere article had some great examples of that.
It did.
Communities organizing those volunteer fire brigades, neighbors helping neighbors clear brush,
Yeah.
create defensible space around their homes,
Yeah.
even using social media to share information and coordinate response efforts during a fire.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to see people coming together to face this challenge head on.
It gives you hope that we can adapt, learn to live with fire instead of constantly being afraid of it.
I agree. It's a powerful testament to human resilience and adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
And it speaks to the importance of building those resilient communities,
Yeah.
communities that are prepared for the inevitable challenges that these wildfires bring.
So we've talked about innovative strategies like prescribed grazing, community-based fire prevention, and the need for a more nuanced approach to land management.
Right.
But what about technology? How is that changing the way that we fight and prevent these wildfires?
Technology is definitely playing an increasingly vital role.
Yeah.
And we're seeing some pretty game-changing advancements.
Oh, yeah, like what?
Well, some fire departments are now using AI-powered drones to monitor for fires, map those burn areas in real time, and even drop fire retardant.
AI-powered drones fighting fires.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty futuristic.
It does, doesn't it? But it's a real game changer.
Wow.
These drones can access those hard-to-reach areas,
Yeah.
provide that critical data to firefighters on the ground
Okay.
and help them make better decisions in real time.
So it's like having an extra set of eyes in the sky,
Exactly.
giving firefighters that tactical advantage.
And then there's the use of satellite data,
Right.
which is becoming increasingly more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Satellites can detect those heat signatures, track smoke plumes, and monitor vegetation conditions.
Wow.
All of that information is crucial for predicting fire behavior and guiding those suppression efforts.
It's amazing how far we've come in terms of using technology to combat these wildfires.
It is.
But with all this focus on high-tech solutions, it's important to remember that it's still people
Right.
who are at the heart of this fight.
Couldn't agree more. Technology is a fantastic tool,
Yeah.
but it's only as effective as the people using it.
Right.
Ultimately, it's the courage and skill of those firefighters on the front lines.
Yeah.
The dedication of those researchers working tirelessly behind the scenes and the resilience of those communities coming together
Yeah.
that will determine our success in navigating this new era of fire.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the 2024 California wildfires, what are the key takeaways that you want our listeners to walk away with?
Well, I think the most important takeaway is that wildfires are an inherent part of our California landscape.
Yeah, right.
We're here to stay. We need to learn to live with them, not in fear of them.
Yeah.
That means embracing that multifaceted approach.
Okay.
We need those traditional firefighting methods, those innovative strategies like prescribed grazing, community engagement, and those cutting-edge technologies all working together.
It's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Between preventing those catastrophic fires
Right.
and understanding that fire plays this natural role in our ecosystems.
It's about respecting the power of fire while also managing it in a way that protects lives, property, and the environment.
Yeah, and it's important to remember this isn't just a California problem.
It's not. It's a global issue, and we can learn a lot from other regions around the world
Yeah,
that are also facing this increasing threat of wildfires.
right. And we all have a role to play
We do.
in creating a more fire-resilient future.
Absolutely. Whether it's clearing that brush around our homes, supporting those fire prevention efforts in our communities, or simply staying informed about fire conditions.
Right. Every little bit helps.
It does. So as we conclude our deep dive into the 2024 California wildfires, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
The relationship between humans and fire is complex
Yeah.
and it's constantly evolving. It's a relationship marked by both destruction and renewal, fear and fascination, and it's a relationship that will continue to shape our lives and landscapes for generations to come. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.